Hello G.I. Joe and 1/18 scale fans, this is The Human Mechanism. G.I. Joe fans are always looking for ways to expand their universe. So anything, even if it's slightly off scale, is fair game for customization and or adoption into their G.I. Joe arsenal. So, let's talk about Bruder. Bruder is a German company that specializes in making these huge trucks. Many G.I. Joe fans have procured Bruder trucks to be used in their Joeverse. As you can see, I'm one of them. Some of you might be interested in buying them, and rightfully so. However, there are a few things that you should know before doing so. This isn't going to be a review. We're not going to dive too deeply into a specific truck, or every single detail, but rather this is going to be a guide for things that Joe fans might find the most important. If you're a G.I. Joe fan who is interested in Bruder, or even if you're discovering Bruder trucks for the first time, this video is for you. Unfortunately, I can't possibly be as comprehensive as I want to be, because 1. I simply can't afford all the trucks for analyzing, because they're expensive, especially when it comes to the inflated prices on eBay. And 2. They're huge, so space is definitely an issue here. However, I think I have enough examples to paint an accurate picture of what Bruder has to offer. I've purchased 4 trucks from Bruder, which are the ones I find most interesting. But let me tell you right now, that doesn't even begin to scratch the surface as to what this company offers. The amount of vehicles Bruder has made is insane. I recommend either visiting their website, or better yet, obtaining an up-to-date catalog to see the scope of the vehicles they have produced. When I received my first lorry from Bruder, this matte granite truck with the Liebherr crane, number 02818 in case you're curious, my first thought was, how the hell is a kid supposed to play with this? It's massive, and on top of that, it's heavy. Here it is right next to the largest G.I. Joe vehicle I have in my arsenal, the Rolling Operations Command Center. I don't even have to say anything. So if Bruder is your choice for adoption into your Joeverse, you better make room. Those who say they don't make toys the way they used to, well, they obviously haven't heard of Bruder. Their trucks may not be made of metal, but these German toy makers definitely put a lot of thought into the materials used for these trucks. Bruder uses high-impact ABS plastic. As the name suggests, these vehicles are sturdy, but the greatest thing about the polymer is that it's fade-resistant, and I think vehicles and figures changing color is something that all Joe fans can relate to. Bruder trucks are made in 1/16 scale, so slightly bigger than the 1/18 scale Joe fans are used to. But I don't think the size disparity is terrible. Which segues perfectly into the next and most important topic: compatibility with G.I. Joe figures. This is where I'm torn on the subject. Not all Bruder trucks are compatible with Joe figures. In fact, the ones that aren't are not even compatible with the figures made by Bruder. Let's look at these two examples here, the MAN TGA and the Unimog, numbers 02749 and 02480 respectively. These particular trucks were just not designed to have figures drive them. They don't have opening doors, which in and of itself wouldn't make fitting figures inside impossible, but the nail in the coffin is that the interiors barely have room for anything. For the MAN TGA, you can place a vintage figure in the passenger and driver's seat, though just barely. But when it comes to modern figures, don't even try. You're going to break the figure. For the Unimog, you can actually fit vintage figures in both seats with ease, but when it comes to modern figures, there is no way. Because of this, I just don't put figures in the cab, period. But the reason I'm torn on the subject is because, while the cabs of the two are not optimized for figures, I can still find use for them. The MAN TGA could easily hold a Pursuit of Cobra Vamp, or any vehicle of comparable size, in the cattle carrier. It could also hold plenty of figures. In fact, it's actually quite astounding how much this thing can carry. For the Unimog, I use it to hold the unused gear for my Steel Brigade team. Fortunately, however, not all Bruder trucks are like this. The matte granite truck has opening doors and enough room to accommodate both vintage and modern figures. The same goes for Bruder's smaller vehicles. Speaking of which, let's talk about the smaller vehicles offered by Bruder for a second, as these are in a class of their own. I was initially going to buy the Bruder Dodge Ram as an example, but after seeing many reports of quality control issues, I decided to purchase the Land Rover Defender, number 02590. This model has opening doors and can accommodate both vintage and modern figures, a trait shared with both the Dodge Ram and the Jeep Wrangler. The back of the Land Rover in particular opens up to reveal several seats, providing enough room for a few modern figures. Another trait shared among all three are a functioning steering system, which is something that Bruder really emphasized here. Underneath the smaller vehicles, there is a removable steering wheel, which is meant to go through the roof and clip into a peg that allows one to steer the vehicle from the outside. That seems a little overboard, but different strokes for different folks. From my experience, most Bruder trucks have at least the suggestion of a simulated suspension system, with the way the tires seem to independently move on uneven surfaces. However, the most prominent suspension systems are on Bruder's smaller vehicles, such as the Unimog and especially the Land Rover, Dodge Ram, and Jeep Wrangler. These vehicles just have a full-fledged suspension system with springs. Some Bruder trucks have engine detail. It's not model quality, but that's understandable, and as Joe fans, this should make us feel right at home. Overall, a G.I. Joe fan might need to do a bit of research on Bruder trucks to see which ones would fit his or her requirements. Hopefully this video helped you narrow your search a little. Bruder trucks are top of the line, and with little work, these vehicles will go very far to expand one's G.I. Joe universe. With that said, this is the Human Mechanism. See you all later. Yo Joe.